Hi everyone. I think we're going to make a start because we've got a lot of great material to cover. I can see some people trickling in, but I'm sure you'll catch up. I am going to leave our panelists to introduce themselves if they want to when they first pick up the mic. You can also have a look of our bios on Hoover if you want to. I do just want to give a quick update on our panel for today, and that is to say that Alexis Sword, who was down as one of our speakers, is not able to join us today due to illness. So her colleague Nicole from the University of Phoenix is going to be joining us today. So thank you so much, Nicole, for stepping in last minute. We really appreciate it. So also just one more note to say, we do have a mic runner for today, so there will be plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So do store up your questions. But yeah, we're going to make a start. I'm going to give a brief introduction, and I will just introduce myself by saying that I'm Becca. I'm the head of product at technology from Sage, and I'm going to start with an intro to just set the scene. Also to say, if you can't see my face, I'm really sorry. I'm a bit short for the podium, so I'm going to try and sort of slightly move to one side, but then I'm further away from the mic. So our panel discussion today is based on Tech from Sage's latest Librarian Future series. And just to give a bit of background on technology from Sage, our mission is to amplify and redefine the power of the academic library to advance teaching, learning, and research. And we achieve this firstly through our product suite that looks to extend the reach of the library to meet their users wherever their users are conducting their studies and research, whether that's in the open web, in the discovery layer, or wherever your users are compiling and writing their research. And secondly, we look to achieve this mission through our own research and publication efforts, and in turn, we continue to learn from these reports ourselves, and these reports very much influence our roadmap, our product decisions, and our strategic direction. So our first report, just to give you a bit of history of these reports, because we've been publishing them for the past 4 years, revealed that many students saw the library as a building that housed collections, but not a provider of services. This perception gap means that students often don't know about the services that is available to them, that are available to them via their library. And the second report that we published in 2022 examined the student research workflow and confirmed what many librarians already knew, which is that students begin their research outside of the library's own environment. And this highlighted very much that libraries can be at risk of disintermediation unless they meet students where they are and where they have built pre-existing discovery habits. However, this report touched on something really powerful, which is that nearly 90% of students told us that they would very much welcome the library into their own workflow. And then our third report, which we published in 2023, focused on librarian skill sets. And this report highlighted that librarians have a wide-ranging set of skills that very much prepare them for emerging challenges, such as the rise of generative AI. And this leads really nicely onto this year's report, which tackles the subject of generative AI, surveying nearly 1,000 students and 300 librarians. And I'm going to actually hand over to Leo, who wrote the foreword to Librarian Futures 4 to introduce this latest report. So, Leo, I'll hand over to you.
Well, thank you, Becca. Hello, everyone. My name is Leo Low. I'm the Dean of the Libraries at the University of Virginia. I'm very new. That is week number 8 for me. In addition to that, I also have a role being the advisor to the provost on AI literacy. So that is my main focus on helping both staff and students become AI literate. So I have done my own studies, and I've helped others do their own studies. This is a very new area for all of us. So the more studies, the better. And this is such a timely report that provides a really good data set for us to really think about our roles in the libraries, especially with students. So thank you, Tech from Stage, for asking me to write the foreword. And there are some really interesting findings which we're going to use as starting points for some of our panel discussion. So I highly encourage you to download that. So thanks.
Amazing, thanks, Leo. And I'm just going to run through some key findings from the data. I'm not going to spend long on this because I encourage you to read the report. There's so much rich data there. And we are going to put the QR code back up on the screen when we jump into the panel discussions again, so there's plenty of time to grab the report to read it. So the data in this slide shows that there's still a great deal of uncertainty among students about AI in terms of what is allowed, what isn't allowed, and what kind of guidance is available to them. And if you just look at those grey sections, these indicate the respondents answering not sure for each of those questions. So with over half of students and rising now using AI in their research process, it's critical that students have clear leaders to turn to for support for all things AI. But on the flip side, we've observed that many librarians aren't confident in advising students on AI use. In the top row of the table, we can see that librarian confidence in advising on AI is markedly lower than confidence in all other areas. And a quarter of all librarians are not confident in the use of AI in the research process. So if you expand this to the somewhat confident section, then that means that 2/3 of our respondents would require further development in this area. And I wanted to put this slide up as well. This is a quote from the paper, because I think the idea of recontextualizing librarian skill sets is a theme that runs through the white paper, and a really powerful one, and one that can give librarians a lot of confidence. And this is, again, something that's going to be picked up in the panel during our discussions as well. And then finally, the last slide, I think this is a really powerful data set because it underscores why it's so important to empower librarians to develop skills in sort of teaching and guidance for students, because librarian voices still matter to your students. Over half of students would be more confident in using AI products if those AI products are recommended by their library. And again, this is something we'll pick up during the panel. So we can move over to the panel. And I want to start by delving into student use of AI and library skills. So Leo, I'm going to turn to you first. And you wrote in the foreword to the report that students trust librarians deeply, but rarely seek their guidance on AI. So what is your key takeaway from the report, and what data stands out to you, and how do you think that librarians can position themselves to reach their users on the subject of AI use?
I think the most striking findings is that a lot of students use ChatGPT, especially, I think over 50-something%, but only 8% of them actually got guidance from librarians. So that's a huge gap right there. You can see it as an opportunity. That's how I choose to see it. I would just share a kind of, my personal experience from my previous institution. When ChatGPT came out in November 2022, in December, we had stories of students coming into our libraries asking our staff to find them books and journals, and nobody could find any of them. And we were really questioning ourselves, right? But now we know why, because especially at that point with GPT 3.5, it really made up a lot of stuff. It's better now, but still it's not, that 100% accurate. So those could have been teachable moments when they were actually seeking our help, but we were not ready. Now, how ready are we now, 2 years later? We look at the data, it's like, well, not really that ready yet. So there is still a huge gap. So that's why I keep focusing on helping our staff basically to be to be AI literate, to learn more about the technology and to provide infrastructure for them to learn more about it. And why is that important? Because in addition to this really useful report, OpenAI just released a paper in September, basically sharing how people are using ChatGPT. And, 80% of all the interactions fall into only 3 categories. One is writing, that's obvious. Second is information seeking. So that's kind of our area that impacts us if people are using open AI or generative AI to find information. How can we help these users, a lot of them students, to really think about getting the accurate or correct information? So information literacy basically is in the spotlight now. And we should grab that opportunity to show people how valuable we are. And we don't even have to learn really a lot of new skills. We already have that skill set. It is really about showing that invisible process to them now, making it visible again. So that's kind of my big takeaway from the report, is that there is a gap, but it's also a great opportunity for us. And Corinne, feel free to jump in as well if you have ideas about this particular areas.
I would say just Corinne Bogida, Stony Brook University. I've been involved in these technologies for your reports, and I was panelist for previous reports, so those are really good. And if I may say, like within the last 3 years, I've seen kind of better reception, improved perception. So even though there are still some skepticism, but the overall is like, it's good. So they from the library folks. For ChatGPT and Gen AI, I've been involved for more than 10 years, actually, even before Gen AI, but Gen AI changed everything. Google search now lost 3 to 4%. People go straight to ChatGPT, and they do everything, therapy, asking anything. So it's changing a lot. So we don't have much choices in terms of student news. They need us. And showing that the trust score is very high with librarians, we need to capitalize on that.
Yeah, amazing. And Nicole, I'd love to hear a bit more about what resonated with you from the report as well, because I know this chimes a lot with what Leo has been saying, what Karim has been saying around where students are turning to for AI guidance and where we feel like they should be turning to.
Right. I'm from the University of Phoenix. I am in charge of a team that develops content for our students who are completely online there. So we don't actually see the students physically, but we do hear from them. One of the areas that we are not hearing from them at all is about AI, except when we get a question about, I can't find an article. And even then, when we reach out to the students and ask them, well, we're just out of curiosity, where did you get the article? Can you give us more information? They don't return, they don't respond. So there's our answer right there. To answer your question about one of the things that resonated with me was that 40% of students are getting their AI assistance from their peers. I have college-age kids. I know what kind of assistance that is. So that's concerning. But like Leo said, that's an opportunity, and I think we need to look at it as an opportunity. We do have their trust. Now we need to step in and fill that gap.
Yeah, absolutely. And sort of like a side question as well. I mean, Karim, the data in the report sort of suggests that nearly a quarter of students don't know if their institution even has an AI policy. What role should the library play in communicating and enforcing that responsible AI policy?
Yes, because, I mean, we have to be part of it, and I've been advocating for this, and like in our case, Stony Brook University, even before University of Rhode Island. So librarians, faculty and staff were heavily involved in all AI committees. And even though the university was in, they didn't want to establish a generic AI policy because they didn't want to have kind of create controversy because there was some faculty who were against it. So they thought, okay, let's do it in kind of slow motion. Despite that, so we're working on AI policy for us, for the library AI services. So, charity start at home. And there is a committee who's going to work on AI policies everywhere. There are some institutions who have really kind of clear guidance, even though there is kind of, they won't use the word policy, by the way, because it's scary for some. If they say policy means they need the approval of the Senate. For state colleges, they need the approval of the state, so they would say guidance to loosen up a little bit the thing. And I believe that libraries should literally lead the AI policy and the AI governance. There are a few cases, actually. And Leo is a clear case that he's the AI advisor for the provost and basically senior leadership. The same in my case, but kind of we need more of this so you can establish yourself, because you're serving everybody. So we're the logical home for the AI policies.
Amazing. And I just want to round off this sort of like theme of AI use and librarian skills by turning back to Leo actually to ask, you're an advocate of AI literacy skills being led by librarians. What skills do you think that librarians already have that position themselves for this work? And what skills do you think could be developed further?
Yeah, thank you for that question, but I'll just add to a little bit more about the policy issue as well. I absolutely agree with Kareem saying that the policy, the word policy, scares people, and I also think that just the nature of a policy is really restrictive. And this is a time for all of us to really think about exploring it, experimenting. A lot of people are trying to be innovative and kind of testing how this technology can help them in their work, whether it's teaching or research or learning, really. So during this period, I think what you said about guidance versus policy, I think that's the right approach. But I absolutely agree that libraries should be in the center of it. The whole point, I think, is that we are that connected tissue. And we talk about trust, right, in the age of AI, and that is going to be such an important element of using this technology. And libraries, by a lot of studies and research, shown that we are a very trusted institution by students and by faculty. And we should take advantage of that to position ourselves to kind of take a lead role in a lot of these conversations, including the guidance and policy setting. And I think it's still too early to set policies, to be honest, but we are getting there and we are learning from all the things that we are trying. So being that connective tissue is really important. Now, sorry it took so long to get to your question about skill set, right, about librarians. So we already possess a lot of the skill sets already. I mean, we are doing our work in librarianship. This AI is just a new tool. But a lot of our users are using it. So we need to understand their pain points, what they are using it for, how they're using it, what are some of the challenges or problems they are encountering. So that would be kind of the things we need to think about or learn from during either assessment or just interacting with them, engaging with them. And also, because it is a new technology, there are all these different new tools available to us. Part of being AI literate is to be able to, first of all, understand a little bit about the technology. We don't need to be computer scientists. The beauty of this is that you can use natural language to do a lot of the things. But understanding the mechanism of how these things work can help us. And also, if students are using, for example, ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, then we should be somewhat familiar with those tools to help them, to guide them using those tools in the proper way. So engaging with the technology itself, some hands-on experience in learning those tools, and then applying our own skill set. For example, if we're doing public-facing or instruction, information literacy is going to be really important. How do you do that in an AI age? But if you're in the kind of metadata or cataloging or other areas, then how do you apply that to your own work and then understanding the pain points of either ourselves or the users who are trying to serve? So it is really about understanding more about how people are using it.
Amazing, thank you. In the interest of time, I was actually thinking we could move on to the subject of kind of procurement and governance. So Karim, I might start with you if that's okay. Our data in the report shows that most students aren't paying for AI, but 2/3 of them are also not having AI bought on their behalf. And at the same time, only 20% of librarians feel that the library should be paying for these AI tools. What is your experience from Stony Brook in terms of the influence that has on procurement? Like, what stands out from the report about that for you?
Okay. Procurement is complicated. And initially, actually, when I share with you my experience, so when we started, we want to play with ChatGPT and we want to have specific version so it can be trained. Just that procurement piece took us 4 months because of all the regulation and also resistance from central IT. Central IT elevated their security level and they blocked anything related to AI. And even contacted General Counsel, we should block anything related to AI. So we have to fight back, phone calls, and finally they agreed. Just that piece for the procurement. The other one is the equity. Everyone is using ChatGPT or Claude or any tools. I mean, those are, let's say, mainstream ones. But since there is no clear guidance, so we're working actually, I can't share everything, but we're working with those, and you will guess the top 3 main players. And we have already established, like California State University, Michigan, Duke, they have already established. Cal State, basically that's the biggest project that OpenAI has. They call it, there is a specific version, they paid 17 million, and it's for everyone, and they have clear framework. And more than that, it's not just for AI literacy. They have access to the cloud, they have access to research, digital health, so it's way beyond. There is a resistance, and the procurement is still kind of in flux. And one of the reasons is also the OpenAI, Anthropic models, because they didn't establish trust with the community. Those big tech AI are exploitative. So there's one reason of people resisting acquiring it. But at the same time, all those companies are exploitative. Same thing, the oil companies. Like when some of my colleagues say, I don't buy it, but you use other things. You buy in, the whole system is kind of around this super capitalistic framework. So we don't have much choice. At the same time, we're playing a role actually because at Stony Brook, we are part of decision making for the AI procurement.
I'd love to hear the rest of the panel's thoughts actually around, especially like the equity question, because I think that's a really interesting one, because I feel like if the library isn't engaging in procurement, you end up with a digital divide where you have some students who are able to pay for premium subscriptions of AI tools, but others who aren't. So any sort of thoughts around that would be great.
Yeah. Based on other studies that I've done with ARL and other places, there are more institutions, not libraries, but universities basically having enterprise subscriptions for people. In the first year, almost 0 in 2023, but by 24, 25, about 30, 40% of the places already have that. But if you look at who are they are the really well-resourced places, and not for everybody either. I mean, they could have 1,000 licenses or something like that. So there is a danger of that digital divide widening, and if, especially with the guidance on or policy, right, on how instructors should set their own classroom policy. Some places say, some instructor will say, oh, you can use AI any way you want. And then you run into that problem of somebody using the free versions versus somebody paying $200 a month using the pro version, right? So that is a huge problem, but like Karim said, procurement is a really complicated thing. Even when people are using those tools, that's what we call shadow AI, in that they are not sanctioned in some ways. They are using it in a way that, you know, IT part would not have approved. So how does that work? So that's the need for guidance and some kind of policy, I feel.
I want to give shout out to our folks here from Content Services. They're working on AI tools, kind of surveys and checking what would be the response for libraries. So we're part of it too, kind of what kind of guidance, because we have, and many of you are publishers here, we have the long tail of all the AI tools, including you. So we need kind of how we should approach this.
I'm fortunate at the University of Phoenix, they issued their guidance for university-wide for AI use, and it's a fairly liberal policy. They also recognize the inequities and have purchased licenses for the students. So at least there's a starting, still doesn't address other resource, upgrading that the students can do, but at least they're at one level. They also recognize that the resource that they purchase may not be the one that the student wants to use. So they are allowed to use other resources as long as you're attributing it and disclosing that you're using it.
I want to share like one anonymous feedback from student. So we have read it, and we really post everything on it. So the title was Professor Allowing AI. I'm taking the mandatory upper division writing in one of the discipline class this semester, and the professor blatantly encouraged using generative AI on day one. For a class about to writing paper, the guy, old, also admitted not having any experience using it and asked the student for advice on it. Am I absurd for thinking that this is a batshit crazy?
I think actually one of the things that was mentioned as well, but in terms of like the question of vendors increasingly adding AI to their products, I think it would be really interesting to hear from the whole panel actually about what questions libraries, institutions should be asking vendors during the procurement process. Like if you're thinking of adopting certain tools, like what questions do you ask these vendors?
I'll take it. So the question is really, you follow first, like you acquiring IT tools, the same thing like with big, like Google. So we have framework, and we work with also General Counsel. And for the allowance in terms of like, security of data, privacy, they need to do those where we call the VPAT and all kind of PAT thing in terms of, IT procurement. And also if you're part of a public college, so there are levels of procurement. And for the small AI tools, that's also working on it, is the data, the AI tools used. And this is like the Wild West in terms of like, because some, even though they use AI, but it's really restrictive and they want to use your data for something else. So we have kind of negotiate that. And the prices too. So the vendors, publisher are really struggling with the pricing model. Initially, like the beginning of ChatGPT, they have the model that you pay per student. And they had in mind that the whole university will use it. And if you pay per student, that basically couple of millions, and that's not affordable. So they went back to the FTE, do server use, so they're still struggling with that. So that's the issue with those small tools. And for us, because our budget is restricted, sometimes you have to pay more, and sometimes it's a package. If it's a big publisher, okay, if you really have the big package, the AI piece is free. So they're all kind of models. People really involved deep in it. Probably there's 7 or 10 models in terms of acquiring AI tools.
So in terms of asking vendors about products, right now it's very ad hoc. It's wherever we can think of. And there isn't a shared set of principles or language even. So I was the president of ACRL last year, and I set up a task force to develop a set of AI competencies for library workers. And one category is really about evaluation, including how do we evaluate products and tools for purchases, basically. And the whole point of developing that set of competencies is to develop training programs. So that is the next step, so that we can all have that shared set of, language or principles that we can apply to our institution. So everything is moving, but it seems like we're always playing catch up to the technologies, but hopefully it will come soon.
I agree. We still need those rubrics to evaluate. And in addition, at the University of Phoenix, we're feeling strong pressure from faculty to adopt those resources that are within the commercial databases because they think it's an alternative to the ChatGPT research, and to a certain extent it is. So that's where we're coming from, is they want to see that adoption. They want to move those students right into those databases that have the AI components.
And from the report, it seems as if students predominantly are more restrictive, if you like, in their use of generative AI. So it's like half of students are using ChatGPT, whereas librarians themselves seem to be more fluid with the tools they use, or more experimental. Do you think that librarians have a role in moving their students, their users, towards more citation reliable tools that are specific, or like built specifically for research? And that's to the whole panel as well.
Well, I can share my thoughts. I mean, ChatGPT is a good general purpose one, but it may not be the best at the certain things that people want to use it for. And there are many research kind of specific AI tools, and they are still being developed and being improved. In fact, a lot of the times, I think we should play a part in helping them improve, so that, we use it and then give them feedback. And in a way that right now is such a chaotic period, nothing has been set. I think we should play a role in shaping it. And the only way to do it is really be engaged with it and be kind of take that proactive role and help people who are developing those things to shape it in the way that we want them to be. So I do encourage us to try out these different products and actually find a way to work with developers that way.
Yeah, in the report it says that librarians were open to acquire AI tools if it's research support. Like, I have a maximalist view. Like, if you position yourself within AI, why just research support? Like, that's kind of a niche, because we feel like, okay, that's organic evolution of research support in general, or / reference. We should be part of everything. And doesn't mean we need to pay it from the library budget. Like the same thing with data services, like, or also Research ID, like ORCID, or any repository you buy. In most campuses, it's shared between the central IT, between the Office of Research and the library. But the library is the custodian. I think limiting just because it's research support, it's library plus. The rest of AI, it's not us. It's shared responsibility, but the library took the lead.
Okay, amazing. So I think we can move on to the sort of like the final theme of our session, which is around AI skepticism. So I want to sort of point this question actually towards Nicole to start, because I know this is something you're experiencing at the University of Phoenix, where you have quite a diversity of enthusiasm for AI adoption amongst your team, where you have some colleagues who are eager to embrace AI, you have some who are maybe lacking in confidence, and then others who are more skeptical. So how do you kind of navigate that diversity of opinion?
So as the university was developing their overall guidance for the students, we were involved in that, the library. And as we got more information on what the guidance was going to be, we moved back to our staff and said, okay, so you've been taking webinars, you've been training, what are you doing with AI? Not doing anything with AI. We were kind of shocked. And when we delved a little bit deeper into it, well, why aren't you using AI? They said, we don't know where to start. It's too much. So a lot of the webinars and trainings they went to were very broad, very high level, establishing policies, establishing procedures, guidance. And when you started to really dig in, they just needed to know how to start an effective prompt. And we were receiving pressure, not pressure, but just influence from both sides. So one, on the administration side, how are you using it to increase efficiencies in your workload? But then we also have, how are we going to use it to support the students? So it was coming at us from both sides. And as we asked more questions of our staff, we realized it ran the gamut from people that had never used it and weren't going to use it because they had privacy concerns, they had ethical concerns, environmental concerns, versus one of our tech guys that was using it to develop a Bigfoot tracking app. So wide gaps there. And in order to address those, we tried to take a three-pronged approach, and that was, one, let's meet once to twice a month as a group and very informally, and just throw it out on the table. Like, what are you using it for? If you're not, what are you interested in? Was there somebody else on the staff that could help you? Let's talk about concerns, and making sure that we were inclusive in the ideas, so that when somebody did have a concern, it was addressed in a reasonable, like, tell us why, and then tell us how we can use that, address that. The only answer that wasn't allowed was, we're not going to do it. We're going to put our heads in the sand, because we had discussions on barn doors and escaped horses, and the students are using it. We need to step up. One of the second approaches was to, kind of wrapped into that, was like, are you using it at home? Have you used it to vacation plan? Have you used it to menu plan? What are you using? And then what can we take from that and try it at work? And then finally, it was just giving them the time to use it, because we're a pretty small staff, we're cross-trained, everybody's very busy. So if somebody was developing a guide, we'd say, did you use any kind of AI tool to help you on that? Well, I don't really have time. It's faster if I just do it myself. That's not always going to be the case. What can we take off your plate to let you do an hour of AI time or play to get that up and running? So that's how we've kind of addressed all of the skepticism. We still have people that are resistant to using it, but on the other hand, we're also developing guides and FAQs and things that they can use to forward to students should they get questions on it.
Skepticism is in the DNA of the library world, especially in the US, because there's recent surveys. So especially in Asia, and we had an event actually with Asian librarians, and the chasm is so vast. Like in Asia, especially kind of China, Korea, Japan, Singapore, they're far along with this. For us, like, you have to destroy everything before, and you rationalize your decision. You would say privacy. Yeah, but you give up your privacy for many things. Environmental impact. Yeah, there are tons of study about this. We overestimate the environmental impact. Doesn't mean, OpenAI, Anthropic, they're kind of doing harm by building mega data centers. But if you calculate really, it was addressed actually at the Charleston last year. The impact when you use LLMs on environment is not different than really, really, really low. So the thing is political, cultural, and also because of what happened in the US historically, and also Western Europe, like squeezing the working class. And we say, okay, AI is harmful. Yeah, but now AI is totally different. Like if we don't jump on it in a critical way, we lose.
I'd love to save some time for questions, but Leo, do you have any final thoughts?
Let's do Q&A.